Well, we've done a couple of pretty big builds here in a row, so let's see if we can't do something to spice up this area between the builds. Hello, this is Harold Halfdan, and welcome to Archaeological Minecraft. I'm a former archaeologist who enjoys playing Minecraft and thought it would be fun to combine the two. In today's episode, we're back on the Archaeo SMP server, and I want to do something to help decorate the area between my builds. And seeing how we have this central lake, why not build some small boats and ships from different ancient and historical eras to decorate my base a little bit? Now, if I'm being honest, and I like to think that I am, some of these designs are really simplistic and embarrassingly easy to build in Minecraft, so I doubt many of you will be completely blown away. It isn't as if I'm building a whole mini city, but as I was thinking about the various Minecraft videos I've watched over the years, I really don't remember seeing people build boats like this. As such, I figured I'd give it a go, and it would be a good excuse to chat about those ancient boat types. Perhaps some of the earliest boats created after ancient peoples moved beyond simply using logs or reeds as floating rafts to hold onto or cross things like rivers might have been the dugout canoe. Simply put, a dugout canoe is merely a felled tree that's been hollowed out and used as a boat. Dugout canoes have been found in excavations or other archaeological settings all around the world, dating way back to over 8,000 BC. One example is the Pesse canoe, found in the Netherlands, and that was around 3 meters or 10 feet long and dated to around 8,040 to around 7,510 BC. But others have been found in Korea or Nigeria or what's now the United States and North America, basically all over the place. And that's really just the luck of specific soils and environmental conditions that's allowed some ancient dugout canoes to have survived, and then more luck for archaeologists to have been able to uncover them. They were constructed by finding a suitable portion of wood that would be light and buoyant and strong. The bark would be removed to reduce drag in the water, and then fire was used to burn out a channel in the log, and then tools were used to remove all that burnt out wood, that charred wood. Then other tools would be used to chop out more of the center of the log and hollow it out. Depending on the time period and culture, the outsides would be left either more rounded or would be shaped to give it more of what we would consider a more boat shape. One of the things that I like about dugout canoes is that not only is that a boat technology that spans cultures and continents, but so too does it span time frames. Even today, dugout canoes are used in some places, like for example New Guinea, and they were even used by the Allies in World War II against the Japanese in the Solomon Islands. So with my simple design here, as you can see, I'm just using some trapdoors and stairs of different wood types to make different colors of my dugout canoes. I like using the trapdoors because, as you can see, you can get in the boat and maybe pretend it's moving. I really wish these would move. Or you could put some armor stands and decorate those people with some armor to give what really is a very simple design more life. Another ancient, simple, and small boat type is a coracle boat. A coracle boat is a small, round-shaped boat with a wooden frame that's covered with skins or some other waterproof material, and that can be found in Ireland and Wales. And it was even mentioned by Julius Caesar when he wrote about his invasion in Britain around the mid-1st century BC. But this is a type of boat that dates far before that. In Wales and Ireland, they could be quite small and then designed in a way that they could be carried on that person's back. Another type of coracle boat can be found used even today in India, Vietnam, and Iraq, and could be large enough to hold numerous people or shuttle supplies or cargo across or up or down river systems. Beyond being supported by a wooden frame, a woven reed basket material is also used, with the underside of the coracle boat being covered in pitch or some other waterproof material to help keep it from sinking. You can see in my design here around my base, I made two different styles. One of these is made mostly with birch trap doors, as I think when you squint just right or maybe use your imagination, it can look a bit like skins over a wooden frame. And then this other style, I used this mosaic bamboo blocks, as that kind of looks like woven reeds or maybe like a woven wooden framework. Below both of those types, I put dark oak trapdoors to approximate pitch or tar being placed on the underside for waterproofing. The next simple Minecraft boat I'm going to build here in the Neolithic and Bronze Age area of my base is a reed boat. These were often found in ancient Egypt and were used for simple travel up and down the Nile as well as in coastal areas, but they could also be found in other areas of the world, with the earliest example dating back to around 5000 BC and found in what is now Kuwait. Similar to other forms of ancient boats mentioned previously, reed boats would have often contained waterproofing on the underside using a coating of tar or pitch. In Egypt, papyrus reeds were used to make the boats, where the papyrus would have been harvested and gathered into bundles where they were tied together and then constructed to make that boat shape. Now, at first blush, it might seem like a reed boat wouldn't have been very seaworthy, and truth be told, I personally maybe wouldn't be so keen to hop in a reed boat and trust it to sail the Nile, where there are Nile crocodiles, but they seem to have been quite functional. A modern reconstruction that was created by Thor Heyerdahl in 1970 was sailed across the Atlantic, and while I don't think that ever happened with ancient Egyptian reed boats, it does show how they are more seaworthy than might appear at first blush. Here's a description of a wall fragment from ancient Egypt dating back to around 2430 BC, where 3 Egyptians are constructing a boat made from papyrus reeds. Now, what's cool about creating a reed boat in Minecraft is now we have bamboo, and of course there are hay bales, which are the 2 main block types I'm using to create my Minecraft boat. Normally, when I'm using hay blocks, I wish that they wouldn't have those red lines around the hay to approximate them being gathered into bundles. But for this use case, I think it works well and does a good job of mimicking how the reeds were secured together, at least to my eye. Before we move off the reed boats, I also want to point out that beyond Egypt, reed boats were used by different people around the world historically and are still used by the Uros people who live on Lake Titicaca between Peru and Bolivia even today. Here's a picture of what their reed boats look like. The next type of ancient boat I'm going to build is also from Egypt, and it's the solar barque. Here's a picture of a reconstruction of the Khufu ship, which is one of these solar barque examples. And then I'm also going to pop up on screen here of some pictures of Egyptian carvings and paintings, but the Khufu ship was sealed into a pit alongside the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It was around 43 meters or 142 feet long, 6 meters wide or 20 feet wide, and 2 meters or 6 feet deep, and dates to around 2500 BC. As I said, this ship is called a solar barque, and in Egyptian myths, it's used by Ra, the sun god, as he travels across the sky, completing the day and night cycle, representing a journey through the underworld at night and then leaving the underworld during the day, which is why thematically it makes a ton of sense for it to be found in conjunction with the pharaoh Khufu's Great Pyramid, which was his tomb, where the pharaoh would have been making his own journey to the underworld. These types of ships were made out of wood, but what I find fascinating about them is that the planks were held together by being sewn together. So the wood was literally tied or stitched together using a natural product as the stitching. Here's a picture of how the stitching likely would have looked on that ship based on a model that was made from that ship uncovered during the excavation. This sewing pattern, where the stitching is running vertically along the horizontally laid planks, is a bit unusual compared to how other wooden boats are held together with sewn stitching in other places of the world like India and in the Middle East that have been found. Here in my reconstruction, you can see I tried to follow as closely as I could, within Minecraft that is, to the Khufu ship's reconstruction that was made in real life. And as such, I also included this enclosed area on the top in that central part of the ship and the designs at the prow and the stern. I also built it to the scale, to the dimensions I mentioned earlier, with a 1 block to 1 meter ratio. So this should be scaled to what it looked like in real life here in Minecraft. Okay, so up to this point, we've really focused on boats and small ships that were geared around staying pretty close to shores in lakes and rivers and coastal waters. And so I want to turn my attention to how some small ocean-going vessels would have worked. And for that, I'm going to leave the Bronze Age area of the base and make my way across the lake, where we're going to talk about the Polynesians, perhaps the greatest explorers in all of human history. We're going to start by building a dugout canoe, similar to what we did before. And as I mentioned before, this was certainly something that the peoples of Southeast Asia and the early Polynesians would have used and been familiar with. But simply having a dugout canoe doesn't get you very far if you're wanting to explore way out into the oceans. For that, you need a technological advancement, and that's adding an outrigger. With an outrigger, your vessel becomes far more stable without sacrificing a lot of resources or adding much drag. The Polynesians also combined 2 canoes together, and then you get what's called a catamaran. Not only does this provide you excellent buoyancy and stability as a ship, but also allowed for the ability to create a platform between the 2 separate hulls, which gets you a lot more space for storage or living areas when you're out on the high seas. Both single outrigger canoes and catamarans were used throughout Polynesia and Micronesia. These naval technology advancements allowed the ancient Polynesians to become the first people to cross vast ocean distances. Their origins are a much debated topic, and this video is all about small boat designs, not an in-depth thesis on the origins of the Polynesian people. So I'm not going to jump into it in a super amount of depth, but one leading model hypothesizes that they started expanding outward from around 3000 to around 1500 BC, perhaps starting from around Taiwan and then branching off into the Philippines. By around 1200 BC, they spread into New Guinea and into the Solomon Islands. By around 900 to 800 BC, they had reached Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa. There was then a pause in their exploration and expansion for about 1,000 or 2,000 years, and then they started a second round of exploration and expansion, starting with places like Tahiti around 700 AD, going to Hawaii in around 900 AD, and then reaching Rapa Nui around 1000 AD, and then finally New Zealand around 1200 AD. It's because of these later expansions that I built these single outrigger canoes and catamaran over here in the coast off my medieval era builds, but their origins and original expansion dated back to before 1500 BC. That means the original Polynesian expansion started way back where we started the episode, and so I'm going to go over there and place one of these ships off the coast of the Hittite city, which dates between 1700 and 1200 BC, so right in line with that original expansion time frame. Well, I think that about wraps up this video. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. We built out a number of small, easy-to-build Minecraft boats inspired by different cultures from the ancient and historical past. I put links, as always, to the articles and resources I used to make this episode, so please check that out if you want to learn more. Make sure you take the time to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to see more of my videos where I make different ships and boats, please check those out here on the links that I'm popping up on screen here. Thanks. Have a good rest of your day. Bye for now.